Guys, I'm back home in Tri-Cities, just got back from Portland. The only problem was some of the audio did not record the right way, so we had to use the audio just from the recording device. It's not as good, but I'll tell you this, the content is amazing, and Jared has an amazing story with a lot of ups and downs in it, and he shares some really wonderful insights, so make sure you watch to the end. Hey, what's up everybody? My name's Austin, this is Jared, and in this video we're going to talk about how youth pastors, leaders, and anybody else can experience emotional health. Check it out. That was pretty good, huh?
That was
Holy
smooth.
crap.
That was smooth.
Okay, so Jared, we are right now in Portland, Oregon. We're just sitting in the hotel lobby right now. And
Calling me in.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about you, what you do, anything else you want to tell us?
Cool.
Your favorite food?
Cool.
Favorite show?
I love it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sweet. Well, I'm Jared Strickland. I pastor a church called The Bridge. It's in between Portland and Tigard. We've been there for about 2 years. I was sent out of my dad's church. I was a youth pastor for a while, and I just felt the call of God after a certain season of my life lead me to do it. And I love to eat sushi like all the time, but not like, you know, American sushi where it's like rice and fake crab, like sashimi, you know, raw fish, no rice, you know.
What's your favorite sashimi? Go ahead.
Well, I love yellowtail. Yellowtail is my jam.
And then your favorite show of all time?
My favorite show of all time is Breaking Bad. I really like Breaking Bad. It's real, it's hard. I know there's some maybe stuff in there that, you know, you might need to close your eyes through, but it's a good story. Yeah. It's a good story.
We were talking like months ago, and when I was in Portland, and you were talking about emotional health, which is a big topic, which is something that we were just discussing earlier that needs to be talked about more. I'm on a journey trying to discover emotional health for myself. Share with us a little bit of the journey about how you found out that you were maybe struggling in this area. And kind of lead us up to that point where there was a turning point where you kind of realized that.
Well, when we started The Bridge about two to 3 years ago, the first 6 months were fun, exciting. We got a new building, we remodeled, we did all that kind of stuff. And then once that season was done, then we kind of got into the groove of church. And I realized that I was having some physical ailments that weren't really, there wasn't any cause to them. There wasn't any, I go see doctors and there wasn't any like uniform. It was like, okay, I'm dizzy, I'm getting headaches. So they were doing like MRIs on my brain. They were doing all this stuff and they're like, there's nothing there.
No idea why.
No idea why. And it was mainly Saturdays before I would preach on Sundays, and then I would get like an upset stomach, but I always had butterflies when playing basketball, so I just use it to my advantage, right? That's like getting excited for the moment. And then all of a sudden I was like, this isn't right. Like it was beginning to affect my energy. It was beginning to, my wife was looking at me differently. She was like, I would be up early, up late, and now all of a sudden I was sleeping more. I didn't have the same kind of energy. And so I finally went to a different doctor, and they said to me that it's probably not physiologically related, but maybe mentally related. And that was really hard because growing up in the church, you know, if you're struggling mentally, it's considered a weakness, not a strength. Yeah. Can I place my hands on you and cast it out of you?
Which will truthfully not help at all.
Yes,
not at all,
but not as often as we'd like it to, right?
That's the truth.
And so I've been praying over it. So then I began to discover like what is the cause, because the things were good in my life at that time. I've made a lot of big decisions. Well, all of a sudden I just felt like I began to re-inventory my life, and so my doctors would ask me, well, tell me about your life. What have you been through the last 5 years? And I would share with them what I've been through, and they'd be like, well, that's a lot for anyone. Maybe that has something to deal with it. And so
how old were you at this point when you had that conversation?
With the doctor?
Yeah.
32, and I'm 34 right now. So this has been a very new journey that I have not come to the conclusion on. I'm still in the process of discovering what it looks like to be emotionally healthy. But then something else happened that really made it clear that something emotionally wasn't right. My dad, about 2 or 3 years ago at the same time, had open heart surgery. He had 4 blockages in his heart, and so he had to go through that process. It's a very serious process for someone in their 60s, and I felt nothing. And that didn't sit right. So if he went into that surgery and something happened to him on that table, there was no empathy, there was no sympathy, there was no emotion, and that scared me because you know, people have their parents go through smaller things, and there's an emotional reaction. And so then I began to kind of take this look at my life deeper. And previously, about 3 years before that, my wife and I had our second son. and our second son passed away from a rare genetic disorder that we didn't know about until after he was born. And in the moment, because he was taken from us to the hospital his first night home. So the first night we take him home, the ambulances come in the middle of the night, they take him, and he never returned home from that point.
Wow.
So when you get caught up in the midst of it, you're just trying to deal with it. You're not really processing it. And I'm one of those people that the way I've handled things in the past is I don't let my mind settle, because when my mind settles, I begin to think things that maybe I don't want to think. And when you think things and you have certain thoughts or memories, you experience pain. And so when we were, with him and fighting for his life, you could be locked in, you feel the grace of God, you know you're in it, but then all of a sudden, when he's taken from you, your hope is taken as well, right? Because as Christians, we're like, we gotta have faith, gotta have prayer. But what happens when the outcome doesn't work out in your favor, or there's no potential for that outcome? Well, for the next 2 or 3 years, I kind of ran from that problem. I went back to work about 2 or 3 weeks after he passed away. I didn't see a counselor, didn't see anybody, and I just kept pioneering. And the thing I discovered recently about emotional health is when it goes, it doesn't give you any signs or symptoms of it falling out.
There's no yellow light before the red.
Right. Of it going, hey, in the next 6 months, your emotional health is going to fall out.
It's almost like there's no gauge on the gas tank. You're just, boom, you're out.
You're out. And when it's out, you're out. And depending on where you're at in life, especially as pastors, we have a weekly routine and expectation. And you're in that rhythm, you're stuck, and it can be kind of overwhelming because... Do
you feel like you hit that spot, or did you get close?
I think I definitely hit that spot. I can remember one conversation with my wife in particular where the dizzy spells hit. We were at the beach at a retreat. I'm in the car, and I said to her, I literally voiced this, and I never voiced this. I said, if this is the feeling that I have to continually deal with as a pastor, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And it was just so exhausting.
Well, let me ask you this: what do you think is the biggest pressure or expectation that leaders that they put on themselves or others put on them that is unhealthy?
Well, it's this idea of perfectionism. It's this idea of, because they're pastors, they can have no flaws or weaknesses in their life, but the reality is just we're human beings just like everybody else.
Right.
And we're not necessarily, to be a pastor anymore, it's not like there's this set list of qualifications. There's expectations, but there's not, okay, you could have never, thought a bad thought as a child. We're human beings that have this call in our lives, I call it craziness, to want to help people. I describe it this way: it's like when you become a pastor, it's like the willingness to have 1,000 girlfriends that are going to break up with you, and you're like, who would subject themselves to that? Who would want to do that? But that's what pastors do. So we're constantly in these relationships where they teeter, and then all of a sudden they're like, we don't like you or what you believe. We're going to go on to a different different relationship. And so it's hard. And so there's this desire to be perfect, but the reality is if our thoughts aren't perfect, our emotional health isn't perfect, then we start wearing masks and trying to present ourselves to be something that we're not, which only drives us deeper into the hole.
Yeah, it's really good. So let me ask you this: if someone's watching this, they're thinking, man, maybe I'm struggling with emotional health. What's some indicators that you've either found out about or that you've read about, but what are some indicators that people can find out? Like, hey, I'm struggling with these symptoms of emotional health, and here's what they are.
Well, so I heard this term used by a pastor, and it's called the issues in the tissue. Okay. And then they have another saying that Jesus may live in your heart, but Grandpa lives in your bones. And I've discovered that you just have to take a look at the people around you and how they process stress to discover how you could end up handling stress. And so when I had all these symptoms, I'm like a big WebMD guy, which is not good. I'm not condoning that. But I found out recently that my grandma, they didn't have WebMD in her day, but she would read medical encyclopedias to find out different ailments and think there were certain things in her body that may not be. And I realized I'm like that. Yep. And so what I say when I say the issues in the tissue is sometimes we have emotional things in our lives that we're not aware of that are more nature than nurture. And I think what we're living in is in a world where emotional health is beginning to show a physiological effect on the body. from the dizziness that I dealt with, from I know people who throw up before they preach every Sunday. I know people who have gastrointestinal problems of like serious issues, and we hide them when we get up on the pulpit and the stage so that we present ourselves a certain way, not telling the world that, hey, we struggle with stage fright just like you do. We struggle with putting ourselves out there, being judged. I think we have to be aware of physical issues. Energy is huge.
Yeah.
If you're not waking up in the morning excited about what you do, I'm not saying to quit what you're doing, but you might want to recalibrate what it is.
And I've been in that spot many times.
Yeah,
absolutely. What was the turning point for you? I mean, was there, like, as far as just trying to get back on a track of emotional health, do you feel like, was it counseling? Was it different friends? Not better friends, but different friends?
Yeah.
Was it a different routine? What was the turning point?
So, the turning point actually was my wife. It was, I was sick, right? So I missed one, so the first year of the Bridge, I didn't miss one Sunday preaching. I preached every Sunday, which is awesome and healthy to do. And I got this dizzy spell where I couldn't get up off the couch, and I thought it would get better because it was like on a Monday. I was like, okay, I'll be better by Saturday, and I'll be able to preach and power through, because I've preached sick before, and it just wasn't getting better. So I couldn't even read my word to preach anything. So I missed that Sunday and had some people speak for me. Thank God I got good friends. And my wife and I were having this conversation in bed, and she was talking to me about how there was some emotional stuff in my life that was beginning to impact her. And I think when you realize that your emotional struggles are not just yours, but they can influence your wife, your children, your church, you have to have this weight of accountability that, wait a second, if I'm not healthy here, that's really what qualifies me to be a pastor, is being healthy here. It's not being perfect here. It's not having all my crap figured out. It's the willingness to go, there's something broken here, and I want to, I mean, pastoring is really being the guinea pig of all the stuff you think works, trying it on yourself, and then going, okay, church, this is what's worked for me. How about you come along for the ride, because I've seen such fruit in my life. So the turning point is my wife just looked at me and she's like, something's not right here. And if we continue on this path, it's like we're going to collide with another train. And I'm going to be honest with you, I've had people tell me, you know, I have those come to moment Jesus since I was a young boy. For some reason, it's stuck this time. Now, I'd like to tell you why it's stuck. I'd like to give you the blueprint so I can help other people get unstuck. I have no idea why it's stuck this time.
What does emotional health look like for a person? I mean, what's the other side of that?
Okay. So emotional health to me is, I describe it, I use this term all the time when referring to my schedule. I don't use the word schedule, I use the term rhythm. So I have a healthy rhythm in which I live my life.
And why is that?
Because for some reason, my personality type, I know what gives me energy and what depletes me. And at the end of the day, before I'm a pastor, I am a husband, I am a father, I am a friend, I am a leader. That's the order I rank it in. And if those are not in rhythm with one another, I don't do any of them well. Kind of like how we're asked to love God, not just with our mind, not just with our strength, but with all that we are. So if I'm gonna lead, I have to lead with all that I am. So rhythm is critical. So I'm a little bit over the top with rhythm, but I'm really big about setting a rhythm in place where at the end of the day, this is how I gauge how emotionally I did for the day. If I come home and I'm drained, and my
emotionally, not physically.
Yes, so I come in, I walk in, and my oldest has a ton of questions for me. Always has a ton of questions. Let's just say he walked in the other day and asked me what systematic theology was. No joke. And I realized that he did. And I was like, okay, well, what do you mean? Well, where did you hear this? Like, did you read a book in my office? And he's like, no, I learned it at chapel today. And I'm like, they're teaching you systematic. I was like, I might be paying for the right thing. But he wants to have these conversations with me, and I realized that if I'm
how old is he?
He's 6.
That's amazing.
But he's a unique kid. You'll have to interview him sometime. But I realized that if I don't have the energy to have those emotional energy to have those conversations with him, like where I can tell I'm impatient, I'm annoyed, then I know something in my day did not go according to the rhythm.
That's an indicator. Right
and so one of the things that helps me is I plan every day out. From the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed, I'll plan my rhythm out, because one of the things that relieves stress is knowing that there's a plan for what comes next, even if that plan is to relax.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's something I've been trying to do.
Right.
Is actually plan out my day way more thoroughly. Because what I found with youth pastors in particular, since that's kind of more my breed, is they will schedule a coffee meeting, meeting up with a student, or something big like that. They have a dentist appointment or whatever, but they don't schedule all the in-between stuff. Their to-do list, their rest time, and so they're like, yeah, I'm not that busy. And it's like, yeah, you're actually a pretty full day. And then it just happens however it happens. It's up to fate instead of determining. So
and I think
really
you bring up a good point. When I was younger, I could just go.
Yes.
So your physical energy can supplement your emotional energy. But when I hit like my 30s, I'm not saying I'm old, but there was a shift that I did not account for. And when I was young, I just appointment after appointment after appointment after appointment. Oh, I didn't get this done. I'll just stay up a little bit later and get it done. Well, that's not how it works. When you have a family and different things, you have so much more added to your rhythm that you have to be healthy for.
Yeah, that's good. Talk about this real quick. What are good boundaries for youth pastors and leaders in particular? Maybe not just youth pastors, obviously, but for leaders, especially those in ministry. Give us a few ideas or thoughts on what are some good boundaries.
So I do something called what I call a reasoning box. It's just my thing. It's my reasoning box. So
I'm gonna adopt it. I like it.
And how I make decisions or how I thought process, everything goes into this box. And at the top priority of that box is just the Word of God. The Word of God has established my values, my value system. And so my values are weird. Like Ezekiel's gonna start playing basketball soon. And I've already told people, if you want to meet with me during one of his games, it's not going to happen, because my value is to be there for my son. So let's say we have this huge appointment that I need to have, but it's during a game. It's not, I've already made the decision without making the decision. The next part is my wife. My wife is so discerning. That's her gift. And so I really go to her with some of the thoughts I'm thinking and decisions I'm making, because she sees it from a perspective that I don't. I'm really good at the stressful decisions, where, your back's against the wall, decision has to be made, I knock it out of the park. Thought out decisions, I can get bored. I'm like, oh, I got all the time in the world. I create my back against the wall. She's able to plan better than I am. Then I have at the bottom confirmation of how I make decisions or thought processes. If no one ever agrees with it, or no one ever comes to me and goes, hey, I like that, or God doesn't open a door where it's clear he's opening a door, then I just allow it to be like a whirlwind, just a thought in my head or a decision that I'm making. It's not necessary. But then I think what we don't do as youth pastors or pastors is we never measure the cost. And so when we make decisions, we never think about it. We don't count the cost. And so we don't ever calculate impact. One of the things I always think about first is, how will this impact my wife and my children and the church and my friends and my relationships? And so what I do is I put everything into this box, go through this process, and I go, hey, so Mondays are my Sabbath. So I don't even have my phone on. So I don't care if a marriage is falling apart.
So is it literally on like do not disturb, or is
no,
it
it's
turned off?
literally shut off, because my personality is if even if it's not on, the notifications are off, I'll check it. And I'm one of those guys where if I see a need, I'll go to that need. So number one, my phone's off Mondays, and it is all about, what does my wife need? You want to go shopping, like go to Crate and Barrel and look at furniture, I'm there. Whatever you want to do, I'm there. So we schedule our date nights, we schedule game nights with the family, and we try to be intentional with that. The other thing I do is I have the fortunate ability to have someone schedule, to run my schedule, and that is huge, because I am a yes man. So if 3 people come up to me after Sunday and they're like, do you want to get lunch next week? I will tell every single one of them yes. Because in the moment, this is God honest truth, I just want to end the conversation. And the quickest way to end the conversation with those people, if it's draining, yes, I'll give you what you want. But then, next Sunday comes and I have 3 appointments and I can't be at 3 places at one time. So I've trained this young woman to run my schedule, and she gets my rhythm. So she doesn't just run my work calendar, she runs my work, social, and I think if I didn't have her, I'd still do it. You have to kind of balance all of it, because there's social expectations, there's relational expectations, there's family expectations, but there's also work expectations. So how do those all blend together, rhythm, in order for you to keep moving forward?
I think the biggest thing that I've been trying to adopt is like, I'm still going to work hard. I'm just going
Right.
to cut it off when it's time to cut it off.
Exactly.
That's what's been hard for me.
Well, I will say this, and this will be very counter to lead pastors.
Go ahead.
I think that the first thing pastors have to understand is we do not work 9 to 5, nor do our pastors work 9 to 5.
It's not a normal.
No. So if I'm hiring a pastor, they will not have hours clearly indicated. Why? Because like this week, we're at the conference.
It's just funky. Yeah.
Exactly. So we're at this conference.
Yeah.
We're in it all day long.
Yeah.
Well, Thursday, if they're like, well, it's 9 to 5, you need to be there. No, I have 2 sons that I won't have seen for 3 days. They come first. My job will get taken care of because this isn't a job. It's a calling. And I'm not trying to use glorified Christian words. If we're going to treat it like such, I don't need to be, so pastors, support staff's different. They have a specific task, but pastors have to kind of weave in and out. Your youth pastor, Wednesday night, you have to talk to this kid and his girlfriend. They're leaders of yours. You're up to 1 in the morning. The expectation can't be, hey, you got to get up. Because what will happen, the first thing you'll do, compromise your time in the Word. Well, what good is that for someone to come into work if they're not even getting their heart right? So we're just too uptight about stuff.
Yeah. Maybe it's just rethinking how we do stuff. Yeah,
exactly.
This has been really good to talk to you about. My last question for you is this. Unless we've already hit on it, what is, do you think, the greatest thing that people at large, not just leaders, deal with when it comes to emotional health? What's the biggest obstacle or barrier? You said for pastors, it's battling the idea of expectation and perfectionism.
Right.
What about people at large?
I think people at large, I think even pastors included, I think culturally we have lost the war on intimacy. And intimacy is especially in the church, we've made it more of a effeminate quality than a by gender quality. But intimacy is where it begins and ends. And what I define intimacy as is the ability to be vulnerable and transparent with whoever.
I tell my friends, you better be hot with me. Honest, open, and transparent. Hey! You like that one?
I love it.
You can use that.
I'll take it.
It's a tattoo I have on my back.
Is it?
Yeah.
Right? Lower back?
Yeah. Let's get hot.
Yeah, let's get...
Anyways.
Yeah, but it's just, I think intimacy is the key. It's the ability to go, you know what? There's something here that's maybe not right. And to reveal that to the right people.
So what's the biggest enemy of intimacy then? If it's vulnerability, if it's being open, if it's no mask.
I think we all deal with a sense of fear when it comes to rejection.
Yeah.
And so I think the reason why we fear intimacy is we're afraid that if we actually show people who we really are, the thoughts we really think, they'll reject us, which feeds into that fear.
Or even just look at us differently, maybe?
Yeah. Because we don't do the best job of leaving the past in the past. We often bring that up to justify the present. And so I think we all deal with that fear. Like, if this person really knew this about me, would they treat me the same way?
Yeah.
Would they? And so we've got to be the church and let the past be the past.
Yeah, that's good. Well, Jared, thanks, man.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thank you.
You're the best basketball player, the best sushi eater. I'm just trying to tell you what you want. You know what I mean?
Thank you. Hey, I'll receive it.
Yeah. Well, guys, we're just here in the lobby on the iPhone talking into the mic, and we appreciate you watching. If you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe and smash that like button. I mean, if you want to hit the like button, you can. We love you guys. We're out.